I'm going to turn it over to the man of the hour, Rand Paul, who is running for the United States Senate. And if anybody needs me, I'll be over at Ben Chandler's office at the porta potty, just seeing if they'll let me in and if I can get some words with him about health care. Thank you guys very much.
Now, Leland's made it kind of hard on me. I like to be the most conservative person on the podium. Now I've got to follow that. Several years ago, there was a congressman, and he came out on the steps of the House, and it had been a very close vote. It had been a budget battle, and there was uncertainty about which way this congressman would vote. And he came out on the steps of the Capitol, and the media greeted him, and they said, "Well, how did you make your decision? How did you make your decision on how to vote on this budget?" And he paused a second and he said, "Well, I went with the best deal." And they said, "Well, what does that mean? Does that mean your vote's for sale?" And he looked back at him. He said, "No, but it's damn sure for rent." That's kind of tragically comic, but tragedy's the word for it. That people actually see and vote based on what they're going to get out of it, either for their career, for their furthering themselves in office, for feathering their nest. Sometimes it's even more overt than that. We had a great American hero who was a Republican congressman who went to jail just recently for taking bribes directly. Most of the time it's not so direct. They don't actually take money directly, but they do take money from the special interest to stay in power. The average incumbent U.S. senator has $8 million in the bank when they start their race. You'll wonder why 98% of incumbents win re-election. It's very rare to have an open seat like we're going to have, because 98% of incumbents win. We have a higher rate of incumbency in this country than they had in the Soviet Politburo. It's kind of scary. Not only do we have trouble getting incumbents out, but I think it means that we need some sort of reform. We need something changed. And one of the changes I'm proposing, it's been around for a while and it's vastly popular, but we never get it through, is term limits. I think there's no reason why we couldn't have 6 terms in the U.S. House and 2 terms in the U.S. Senate, and they should come home and live under the laws the same way the rest of us do. If we don't immediately get term limits through, though, I have a suggestion which may bring them home quicker. I think that the congressmen should go to the VA for their health care. And I think the veterans should get the congressional health care. Thomas Paine wrote in 1776, in the midst of several defeats as they were retreating from Boston and New York. They were in New Jersey, and this was a couple of days before they finally had a victory at Trenton. But George Washington sent him back to Philadelphia, thought he would be more important writing for the cause, and he wrote a pamphlet called Crisis. And in that pamphlet he began with, "These are the times that try men's souls." I believe we once again live in times that try men's souls. I think there is a great uneasiness upon the land. I think there is a great discontent upon the land. You see it rising up in different ways. You see the Tea Party movement. I spoke to 700 people in Bowling Green on April 15th. You had over 1,000 in Lexington. There were several thousand in Paducah. There have been 4,000 in northern Kentucky. And those who want to criticize this movement say, "Oh, it's just a bunch of Republican organizers and that Fox News." Well, if you've been to these events, you know it's not. In fact, many Republican politicians are coming because they see an alliance with these people, but these aren't the Republican leadership that are organizing these Tea Parties. Because these are people who are upset that we feel like we've lost our way as a country and we've lost control of our government. And they see the problem as a bipartisan problem. It's not a Republican-Democrat thing, and those who want to paint it in party terms are missing the Tea Party movement. Because the Tea Party movement is not just about our taxes are too high. It's about the deficit. It's about the debt. It's about runaway spending. I used to introduce my congressman, who was a Republican, and everybody thought was conservative. I'm in Lions Club, and I'd introduce him, and I'd say, "You get an A+ for cutting taxes, but you get a C- for cutting spending." We've lost our way. We've lost our believability as a party. And I am a Republican, my parents are Republican, my grandparents are Republican. But we have to self-examine as a party if we want to grow, and we have to regain our believability on spending, on the deficit. I think it's going to take rules. One of the rules is term limits, but another rule is a balanced budget amendment. Politicians in general cannot be trusted to do what they tell you. They go up there and they succumb to the pressures, they succumb to the lobbyists. You know, in 1994 it was great. We had the contract with America and we took over Congress as Republicans for the first time in 40 years. It was done on a message, a clear, concise message. In fact, I think term limits was part of the contract with America. But they lost their way quickly. And in fact, a famous Republican from Texas coined the new strategy in 1996. And this was called the K Street strategy. And this was actually verbalized and publicly acknowledged. K Street is where the lobbyists are. They line up and they give millions of dollars to candidates. And the Republicans said, well, Democrats stayed in power by getting all that special interest money. Let's do the same. So by 96, we had already transformed into the K Street strategy. And by the time we got in charge and we finally had all three branches of government, the debt doubled from $5 trillion to $10 trillion. As Republicans, we introduced and passed, never would have passed if we would have opposed it, prescription drug plan. Medicare is already in the process of going bankrupt. So is Social Security. It's a simple demographics. It used to be 7 workers for 1 retiree. Now it's about 1 to 1. There's not enough working people to take care of the older people at the level we have been doing it. So now we're going to add 46 million people new to the healthcare system, and it's not going to cost you anything. P.J. O'Rourke says that you think healthcare is expensive now? Wait till it's free. If you look at healthcare, there are 2 problems. There's access and there's expense. But they work in opposite ways. If you increase access, you will increase expense. So it's a lie, it's a charade, it's a joke to say you can have all these people have health insurance and it's not going to cost anything. And they'll get the savings out of efficiency. It will not happen. Of the 46 million people who don't have health insurance, 1/3 of them make more than $50,000 a year. They're choosing not to get health insurance, maybe because of the expense, maybe because they're young and healthy, they're rolling the dice, but they're making that choice and they're not poor people. 1/3 of them are poor and are eligible for Medicaid, but they're not signing up for Medicaid because it's a pain. You got to go down to the office and wait in line and fill out some paperwork, and they know they can go to the emergency room anytime they want. So when they say we don't have access, we don't have great access for everybody, but we do have 100% access for emergencies. And I'm not promoting this as a great system that we have now, but we do have it. We have to at least acknowledge no one gets turned away in our country for emergencies. 20% of those who don't have health insurance are not in this country legally. So we're going to transform our healthcare system for people who broke the law to come to our country in the first place. Big mistake.